Hi there, Dan Martell here, serial entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to pre-sell your product before you even build it so that you don't have to waste a bunch of time, energy, and money to find out that nobody wants to buy what you create. And be sure to stay to the end where I share with you access on how to get my idea to exit mini course where I go over a ton of different topics from how to get your product built to how to get customer validation to managing developers and all different aspects of scaling a software business. So I've been building software companies for 20 plus years, and I've learned so much about how to go to market, get validation, and really test an idea. I remember when we were building my company, Flowtown, it was really tough to figure out who our core customer was gonna be. And this is after we actually built some product, put it out there to find out nobody wanted that solution. So we went back to the whiteboard and we designed a test. What we did is we said, okay, here's the minimum product features. Let's go find 20 customers to pay us $20, okay? That was the criteria. Me and my co-founder Ethan ran out, we were literally in San Francisco. We run out into the street and we start going to different friends' offices because everybody pretty much works in a 3-mile radius. And we just showed them the prototype, which is essentially like a screenshot. It was just like a printed off version. We said, does this make sense? They're like, that's amazing. When's it going to be ready? Say, well, we'd love to have you as an early adopter. All it's going to take is $20. That gives you a discount on the future product cost. Do you want to be involved? And people started paying us. And that's when we realized we had some traction. Then we went to the next level, which we called a smoke test. Essentially a Wizard of Oz. We built a fake version of the interface that we mocked up. And then we sent an email to a couple hundred people and asked them to fill out essentially simulate the software. So Flowtown was a way to get social media data on top of email addresses. So essentially they had to fill in the emails into this form, and then we would tell them what it would cost to process to get that social media data, and they would enter in a credit card or a PayPal payment. The funny part is none of that worked. And all we wanted to know is what percentage of people would convert to paid so that we could test it. Not only was there demand, and this was after people had already gave us $20 to validate that, we wanted to run a smoke test to see if we could even get people to pay without us knowing them and sitting there and convincing them, because sometimes people call me Sell Martell. I get excited and I don't do true validation. Instead, I'm trying to sell people on it. And that was really the beginning of perfecting the true product development that I'm going to share with you in this video. Number one, list of early adopters. Here's the challenge with most people that are trying to validate a product is they make a list of companies that could be potential customers, but they never run them through the filter of early adopters. So if you've ever heard of the technology adoption curve, essentially there's 5 different phases of technology adoption. And in the early days, you want to find the early adopters. These are the people that wait in line for the iPhone, have the latest gizmos and gears, use the latest workflow software, collaboration software, the latest apps on their iPhone. These are people that are willing to deal with challenges to be at the bleeding edge. So if you were trying to sell software, for example, to restaurants, you want to figure out what qualifies a restaurant as considering an early adopter. What is true about their business that will tell you that they're into adopting technology early? Because if you went to late laggards or the late majority, those are people that might give you a false positive on it being a bad idea just because they're not early adopters. So for example, in the restaurant, first thing I would do is, do they have a Snapchat account on their marketing website? If they do, they're probably early adopters and they would make the list. But you have to make that list. Build the hit list of early adopters to eventually go and talk to validate your idea. Number 2, ask for advice. One of my favorite quotes ever is ask for advice, get money. Ask for advice, get anything. So whenever you're trying to reach out to a customer and you want to kind of validate with them, don't go in there and say, I need to take your time, da-da-da-da-da. Just say, I want to get your advice on this idea we're building. And walk them through it and validate their pains, validate the solution. Ask them questions about, if you could wave, this is called the IPO question. If you wave a magic wand and this problem was solved, how would that look? And that to me is probably the most important part of just getting through the list of early adopters that you've built to get a conversation started with the people. Who are always like, what do you say when you reach out? I literally email and say, I'd love to get your advice on a product that we're thinking of building. You're incredible at what you do, and I think it would be really valuable. Do you have 7 minutes to jump on a quick call? That is the most important step, is just asking for advice. Don't stress out too much. Get them on the phone, get in-person meetings, and start having a conversation. Number 3, validate pain and solution. So in the book, 4 Steps to the Epiphany from Steve Blank, I'm going to link that up below, he talks about getting pre-orders. And the whole idea about validating pain and solution is not about changing your solution every time you get a different pain. This is where most founders screw up, getting people to pre-buy their software before they actually build it, is because by the end of this process, if you get 20, like I did, 20 early adopting customers paying you money, and every time you've talked to somebody, you've changed the solution, then you're going to have to build 20 varieties of your solution to meet that demand. It's probably going to be overwhelming. You probably don't have enough pre-sales to fund the product development, so you're not going to do it. What you want to do is validate their pain and solution based on one product set, and just focus on that. And until you find out that the market doesn't want that, then you tweak it and go find another 10 people to validate it. Because if you keep changing your product for every piece of feedback you got, then yes, you might get people interested in your product, but they're actually not interested on what the core of it is. They're interested because you overcame their objections. So don't do that. Validate the pain and your solution to that pain. Number 4, Mevo. This is my favorite thing ever. I believe that MVP is a dangerous word, minimum viable product. You might have heard this in the lean startup. And the reason why it's got the P in there, and the P is essentially a whole lot of work. If you think you need to build something to do true validation, you're absolutely wrong. And I think Eric would agree with this. You don't have to build stuff. You have to simulate this situation. What I do is I call it a MEVO, a minimum economical viable offer. It's essentially something that is attractive enough for them to buy. Something simple. It could be a one-pager. It could be a marketing site with a sales page. It could be some screenshots. But essentially, you want to design a Mevo. When Ethan, my co-founder, and I went out and pre-sold Flowtown, we designed a Mevo. We went to the market. We did all these steps, and we got people to pre-buy. So essentially, the Mevo is what's the minimum economical viable offer that you could make. And at the end of the conversation, so the way the flow works, if I put this whole thing together, 1, you want to figure out the early adopter list. Then you want to ask them for advice. You want to validate their pain in your solution. And only after that, if you feel like they're a fit for you as a customer, that you then make them an offer using the Mevo framework. Just define it. It's minimum. It's an offer. And they buy. If you can do that at scale, you will be able to pre-sell your product before you ever build anything. Take that capital and then build the product that the customers bought and deliver on it. So real quick recap: 1, list of early adopters; 2, ask for advice; 3, validate pain and solution; and 4, Mevo, make an offer. That's how it's done. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I want to share a free training. It's called my Idea to Exit mini course. Essentially, I go over 6 core modules about starting, launching, building, marketing, funding, and even exiting a software business. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link below to get access to my Idea to Exit mini course, where I talk about and I go in depth in all the concepts I talked about in this video and a bunch of other nuances that you may not have, like the belief and mindset that you need to be successful in building a software company. Click the link below, get access to that. If you like this video, I'd appreciate if you click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as per usual, I want to challenge you to live a bigger life and a bigger business. I'll see you next Monday. How to pre-sell your product before building it. Oh, na, 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 na.